Okay, there's a pause. Ready to
Absolutely. Yes.
finally bring up our
Finally.
list.
Okay. And that's how we're going to start it. Finally.
Uh, yes. So I have the first one on the show notes that I sent you
Yep. I got it.
is
It's right in front of me.
10 tips to avoid annoying your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
That was the email that we bounced back and forth with. I re-forwarded you, and then you found it anyway. And
Yep. Yep. Yep.
if you have that, that's that list.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all of these already. I think we're doing pretty good.
Now
Um,
let's just kick them around.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing I want to encourage is our listeners to voice their opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we'll talk about in one of them. Something about not begging, but which is
Mm-hmm.
something else I don't think we do at all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
don't talk about the weather. Well, okay, maybe we're not starting off so good, but I think it's going to get better because I think you
Okay.
and I
Well,
certainly kind of talk about the weather.
yeah. So what we're doing today, folks, is Ross found several, I don't know, emails or something, or podcasts or something
YouTube
that,
videos and the conglomerate, yeah.
yeah, about things you should do as successful podcasters and things you shouldn't do to be a successful podcaster. And we have tried, we are going to take a good long look at some of those things. We'll start by apologizing for the ways in which we're not so good. And we'll also start by making a resolution to try to be better on some of these things. And Ross, I think you want to invite our listeners to provide us with some feedback so we stick to our goals. How's that? That
Yeah,
sound good?
and I've said I've made a habit, and I haven't steered away from this yet. If you listen or watch via Spotify, at the
Mm-hmm.
end of every Spotify episode,
Mm-hmm.
there is a question that they throw in. What did you think of this episode? Blah blah blah. That's it. I can edit that, and I do
You do.
make it more relevant
Really
to the episode. Yes,
interesting. Yeah. Really
and then
interesting little survey
also
questions. Yes.
then there's also the poll that is optional. It's not necessarily going to be there. I also create a poll.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's one or the other. You only get to pick one.
Yeah.
Other times it is you can pick multiple, and that's something that
Mm-hmm.
I can control when I create the poll. And I would love to see our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
at least those who are on Spot. I'm not saying go download Spotify and create an account there so you can take part, but for those that do
Mm-hmm.
listen, and Spotify does have video. As those of you who are there know, it's just our thumbnail. It's not our faces or anything. Uh, but let us know what we can be doing, because one of the points that I make is that I'm not doing this to have a microphone in front of my face
Mm-hmm.
and to feel cool and to think that I really am Howard Stern.
Mm-hmm.
Jane and I have these conversations, yeah, for each other, because I think we've both admitted that our talks are actually very therapeutic.
Yeah. Not everybody likes to listen to me in my real life. And Ross does. So it's kind of nice to have to have somebody to talk to. So
And that's
there
you
we go.
folks. We're talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually somewhere one of the suggestions. I think talking to first, talk as though we're talking to one person.
Yeah. Build a
I think is one of the
rapport.
suggestions.
Build a rapport
Yeah,
is in one of the top 10 mistakes to top 10. Is that something we're not supposed to do? Build rapport?
that's one of the top 10 suggestions. Yeah,
Okay. Top 10 suggestions. Anyway,
yeah,
so we thought we'd run through these just so you know that we will be at least to some degree some of the time trying to be better at what we do. So, top 5 mistakes by podcasters. Let's talk about us not planning ahead. Interesting
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. Next.
today I received your episode notes, as far as, not to describe what we did, which is what episode notes are to in my mind, but this was, what are we going to do? And I've had suggestions from people in my life to that we do spend a little bit of time, not that we have to be married to it, but spend a little bit of time before our episodes figuring out what we're going to talk about. And I think we're getting a little bit better at that, although we do ramble a lot.
Yeah,
You want to
yeah.
talk about
And
that?
that's
Not
why I just opened up with from the other. There's another list that we'll touch on after we get through these. Uh, don't The very first one is don't talk about the weather.
right.
And the
Hurricane
thing about
Adalia.
these are is that what it's saying there is we're not celebrities. Nobody
Hmm.
cares about our personal lives. Like, you can sit and listen to Howard Stern ramble, and because, well, he's Howard Stern. I kind
Hmm.
of wish I had a
Sure.
place in uptown Manhattan that's
Yeah.
the size of my house and bigger, and
Hmm.
had a super fan that was my personal hairdresser.
Hmm.
That, but that's
Yeah.
not us. So I have
Yeah.
to do my own hair, and that's one of the reasons why we're not on video.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Well, we're not on video for me. I mean, my Be Inspired podcast is totally just audio because I really hate looking at myself. I'm not,
oh,
I really hate looking at myself. Plus, that's the number one. But number two is, and I think I've mentioned this more than one time before, for myself, when I'm watching TV, when I'm watching Lawrence O'Donnell or Alex, whatever her name is, and Rachel Maddow, I'm looking at their makeup. I'm looking at their hair. I'm looking at what's in the background, in what's in the background. And and I'm not listening to them fully. So,
it's actually one of the
yeah,
suggestions. Yeah, or
yeah.
one of the. There's something relevant to that we're going to trip over eventually. But it's with headphones. And you and I both now wear headphones, and
Hmm.
the audio and such. But yeah, I'll make sure when we get to that, I'll make sure why you should be as a podcaster, you should be wearing headphones.
Yeah.
But
I
I
thought,
started with
yeah, talk about
don't
that.
talk about the
Yeah.
weather because that's kind of what we do. That's when you sit and think about it, really, you know, I mean, we could rename this podcast, two old people shooting the shit because that's what we're doing.
But watching the Golden Globes, watching critics, whatever it was last night, the Emmys, the Academy Board, whatever they are, I like my favorite part. My husband knows this. My favorite part is checking out what they're wearing. I mean, did you see what Greta wore for the Screen Actors Guilds Award? She was absolutely gorgeous. This black thing, she looked absolutely fantastic. And last night at the Critics' Choice Awards, she looked like she was wearing a down comforter. And it was so ridiculous, in my humble opinion. But
I
what a
don't even know who Greta
change.
is.
Oh, she's the director of Barbie.
Oh,
Greta
okay.
Gerwig. Yeah. I mean, she was absolutely beautiful at the Screen Actors Guild Award ceremony. But last night at the Critics' Choice, oh my God. And then she tripped up the stairs. But she wasn't the only one who tripped up the stairs. It wasn't her necessarily her dress. Some guy tripped up the stairs later on in the program. But anyway, so video to
Yeah,
me is
with all that stuff,
distracting. Video to me is
I don't understand why
distracting.
they don't have a ramp.
Yeah. They do. They need a ramp. They need to get rid of steps
Yeah,
because
with
too
those
many people
dresses.
trip. I
Yeah,
thought about that on the way back from the studio today because I was thinking about Greta. Anyway, so yeah, so audio podcast only, so that when people are reading, when they're doing the dishes, my friend Susan listens to us when she is driving, and Amy, my friend Amy, listens to us when she is driving. And so knowing that it's just audio, you're not really missing anything. So I really like that. But
Right.
not but planning ahead, we need to continue doing that so we're not just rambling. Although, no, we're not Howard Stern and Robin or whatever, but I think part of the attraction, if we have any, is that if we have any, is that we are authentic. We are who we
Totally.
are, and we share things about our lives because I think people can relate to that. I think, sharing that we are human, that, people can compare their lives with ours. And even though we're not Howard Stern and Robin, I think people are interested in that, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, even how many English teachers are there in the world? Plenty.
Bunches.
But you've still done things that are unique to other
Mhm.
English teachers, to
Mhm.
Boyertown, and if somebody's less interested in hearing your critique about poetry, they'll
Right.
tune back in when you're talking about art or when you're
Mhm.
interviewing somebody on Be Inspired
Mhm.
who's
Or
normal and
talking about my
boring.
dog. Or talking about
Yeah,
Ginger. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or who's normal and boring, and you just brought out the exciting shit from them. Yeah, I still tell people the story about that banker that I heard the first
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
And like, okay, 5 episodes later, I'm still making dinner.
Mhm. That's cool.
Um,
That's really cool to know. But one of my very good friends in a conversation this morning started her conversation, and I'm just bragging now. I'm admitting it. Started her conversation with me this morning by saying, "Before we talk about anything else, I just want to thank you." Because she went back to a podcast episode that we recorded a year and some ago and was pleased with, I suppose, how she presented herself and how I helped her to do that. And that made
nice.
me so happy.
Yeah.
That made me so happy. It really did.
Yeah.
And when people tell me after an episode, when they say to me, "God, that was easy. I was worried about what we were going to talk about," and and they say, "But it was easy. It was just talking to you." And I'm really, really happy when people say that to me, I have to say. So
Yeah,
that's a little bit
absolutely.
bragging. I apologize to my audience for doing that, but it makes me very happy. And there you go. There you go. So there.
So planning ahead,
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of tough for us because so much of what we talk about is not just, talking about the weather,
Right.
but it is also very topical, I think.
Well, I think what we
When we talk
have to
about Donald
do,
Trump
yeah,
and
yeah.
the coming election cycle and so on.
Well, I think what's important for us is to remember why we're doing this in the first place. And
That's
that's
kind of
one of the things they mention here. Refer to your purpose, the goal of the podcast. And
yep.
I think to avoid just senseless rambling, that's what we need to do. And so, what is our? Let us state it in this particular purpose is what? To share what's going on,
Yeah,
to
because
recognize that you had said it. You said it. You said it in many episodes that we try to be positive. Your
yeah,
whole station is about,
yeah.
go ahead, you talk.
Well, I think the other thing that you and I talked about when we reconnected after you were on Gary's show,
Yeah.
the Backroom Network, the Backroom Show, and we just contemplated the whole, what if we got a podcast together?
Hmm.
And you came up with both sides now,
Hmm.
and you intrigued me because I didn't know why you picked that, but I thought, okay, that sounds great. I bet there's two of us, good, cool. And I don't know, there's so much more to it. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And then we actually created an episode out of that, if you remember,
Hmm. Yep.
where you told that story. And I think if we hang on to that format, that when we take a topic, and it's still on there, it says a debate, a discussion. I don't think we've ever really all that frequently debated
Well, that's the thing.
because
I thought initially that we would really come from different sides of all kinds of spectrums. I mean, we have an age difference. We
mm,
have a sexual identity. I mean, I'm straight, you're gay.
yeah,
I'm older, you're younger. Um, I, I
although I
just
feel
thought
I'm
there
catching
were
up to
I
you.
just thought there were a lot more things where we would differ. But what it ended up being, both sides now, less of a debate and more recognizing how much we have in common, even though we come from different sides.
And I
And
think that's something we keep stressing.
and I think that in this divisive age that we're living in, that's probably a really good message. Like, there's a lot of common ground, even
Yeah,
though we come from different sides. So that's what it's
very
come to be.
important.
That's not where it started in my mind, but that's where it's come to be. So, folks, that's our goal, to perhaps share the positive, because that was part of one of the things we both share: the need to be positive, the need to forward the positive in our lives, not toxically. And we've had several episodes about toxic positivity, but
Mm,
in order to forward the positive and find common ground, a unity, you know, and that's, that doesn't grab all kinds of people, because as we've talked about before, I think people love to argue. I think they love to feel resentment. I think they love to yell at each other, and we don't get that kind of audience, because that's
Well,
not who we
the other
are.
thing about that is, as uh, to quote another favorite podcaster, David Beckmeyer,
Right.
he said being angry is okay, but pick and choose your battles.
Hmm.
So if somebody wants to be angry with us, because we have an opinion one way that's different from theirs, or they want to
Hmm.
debate that, or there's something that pisses us off, that's
Hmm.
okay. It's not like we're coming in here every week, like I keep quoting Dan Bongino too. Oh, Joe Biden did this today. you know,
Yeah.
but so
But
number
I
two
think
on the
out of the mess of
list,
things, we're going to find something to believe in. We're going to find something to
yeah,
unify us. I just think that. I just think that.
yeah.
Okay. What else? What else we got?
Well,
What else we
it's
got?
it says, and it's kind of ties into number one out of these first five, being reactive instead of proactive, and I think we're kind of both in the right. I think we're kind of both
Balance.
in the right. Yeah,
Balance.
yeah, because we're
Yeah.
proactive in that we do talk or text on Sunday to
Hmm.
talk about our Monday recording session, or at least over the holidays we've had to spread them out, due to Christmas and New Year's being on Monday.
Hmm.
Um, but we're also reactive in the right amount because we are topical. We can't talk about we can't plan what we're gonna talk about in February. We're not there yet,
Exactly.
and that has a lot to do with what we talk about is
Yep.
then and now.
Yep.
We so to the best that we can, we do plan for our future, but also being proactive also meant maintaining control of all aspects. You probably come up with 75 to 80% of the topics. I do the editing,
It's
I
my
do
lesson planning.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and really, the only things I contribute topics for are things that are more like the Iowa caucus, things that are more my area of
Hmm.
expertise. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And I really love, and I've said this to you before, I just really appreciate the research that you put into whatever it is we do, because don't.
yeah,
I'm off the top of my head pretty much, or what I've read in the paper this morning or throughout the week or whatever, but I do not bring the research to the table. That's what you do, which is what I
that's
really,
fine.
really
But I think
appreciate.
that's also keeping it relevant to the day. as opposed because
Hmm.
you are then representing so many of our listeners
There you go.
who are also talking about these things right now.
Mhm.
But
Okay, so
so
let's
this next
see.
one, we're yeah, and we've broken this one in this episode.
Yes, we have. Okay, so
Comparison to more established
what does that mean?
Howard Stern and Robin.
Okay. So we violated that. Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah. Too much time editing. Do you edit much?
Not much, no. The bigger thing I did last week took was more, and the reason why they all came out more at once were two reasons, really. As I remembered them, one day kind of really flowed right into the next. And while there was a certain level of suspense that I could have created,
Mm-hmm.
I also recognize it's right after the holidays. People are still kind of sort of busy. I didn't
Hmm.
want them to forget about it.
Okay.
So I decided to drop all six at once, or pretty close to. I think it was one, and then the remaining five. But
Hmm.
and that was just um, I created some intros and outros
Hmm. You
uh,
did. Yep.
that I had before, and I had the
Yep.
in the outro or an intro it mentions part two.
Hmm.
Well, we were talking about parts three, four, five, and six.
Yeah.
So when I created those final copies, I edited those specific words out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Let's continue,"
Oh,
and it
good.
stops.
Yeah, that's good.
Even though some of them are actually labeled, part one, part two, and then the next set, part one, part two, but
Yeah.
um, this
Well,
allows you to continue with all six right at once,
right, right,
as
right.
Sue is driving, or somebody's making dinner or whatever. So no, I don't spend a lot of time editing. I
Hmm.
do edit to a point where we can also, by putting in some of the graphics that we use, like how they can get in contact with us, the 800
Hmm.
number,
Hmm.
and the
That's
email,
good.
and the just the thumbnail over top of it, and some graphics for the intermission time and welcome back, that kind of thing. That's the editing, and that allows us to have a video for Spotify if somebody wants it that way, or to, I think Craig follows us on YouTube, as does my mom. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so that lets us
Okay.
put it on YouTube, even if that's the all the video that there is.
Good enough. Yeah. Well, I just
For
know
us to promote
that
new content, that's the next one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
my puppy's
Oh, there's a
here.
puppy.
Ginger arrived. So we will continue with this and then I must get to Ginger. But
Yeah, same here.
so too much editing. Now my podcast, there's none. And
Yeah,
and that's just the way it is. So anyway, not promoting new content. Well, that's a mistake, not promoting new
yeah,
content.
yeah,
And I've got to get better at that. I've got to get better at spending some time putting our episodes on Facebook, maybe, and on the Boyertown
oh,
Area Expression. I have
I
not done that, and
put
I
them when I
apologize.
launch. Yeah, well, when I drop, I put it on our Facebook page, our Both
Yeah,
Sides Now page, and I put it on my own
yeah.
stuff too.
But I don't
And
go there enough to share. So I
okay,
need to get better at that. I need to get
you
better at
share a
that.
lot of my stuff. I thought.
Oh, good. I'm glad that's how you see it. I try, but I haven't made it enough of a goal, and I need to do that.
In fact,
But
that's something I need to do better at, is sharing. Be inspired, and outrage overload, and doing better with stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
so that folks find us. I mean, they may end up hating us, but to some degree, it was on purpose because I wasn't sure that we knew enough about what we were doing or why we were doing it to bother people to pay attention. Now I do. Now I
yeah,
feel more confident about what we're doing and I don't mind sharing. Like last week, several of last week's episodes about talking about religion and whatnot and spiritual beliefs and so forth. I really enjoyed chatting about all that. And I think that one
Yeah.
for me is, is one I'd really like people's responses to, and I'd really like for them to listen to. So, if they can go back somewhere between episodes 37 and 42, as you call them, not that they're labeled that way, but the week of January 8th, I think
Yeah.
that's what it would be.
Yep.
The week of January 8th, all those episodes, I think were worth, many of them were worth listening to. So, particularly toward the end of our conversation. Okay. All right. Top 10 mistakes to avoid. Is that where we are now?
That's it. Yep. And I think we're actually pretty good with this list. Uh, who are the hosts? Who is or who are the hosts? And that they must complement each other if there's hosts. And I think to that extent we are a good Howard and Robin,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but we're more
I do too.
co-hosts as opposed to this being my show. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
show. Um,
It's ours.
Yergz
Yep.
tonight is, and the co-host there, fill in accordingly, but they're a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Quivers, if she decides, she's 72 years old.
Whoa.
If she decides to retire, Howard at 68 years old ain't starting over.
Don't you think?
And
Do you think
no,
he'll carry on
and
by himself? Or will
no,
he retire too?
I think he would go too, and I think that would be something that they would talk about together. I just saw that
Wow.
on YouTube. Jerry Seinfeld was offered $110 million to do one more season of Seinfeld.
Yeah. Now, when are we going to get to the point where people are saying they will pay us to continue? Just
Well,
kidding.
working on it.
Oh.
And he talked with he talked with Michael Richards, Julia Louise Dreyfus, and Jason Alexander, and they all turned and looked at him and said, the comedic timing,
Mhm,
and when to pop a punchline and when to pause, but and whatever. And they just all felt that they were really seriously at the top of their game,
mhm. And
and
that's
they had a
important to
love
know.
relationship with the audience that
Yep.
to force something out for $110 million when they all had that already, you know,
Mhm.
it wouldn't have, and they decided to walk away.
I
And
think they
I
made
think
the
Howard would
smart
do the same
decision.
thing. But
Yeah.
I think it would also how I think Howard and Robin would also sit down with Fred and Gary and everybody else that's really a part of that show and say, okay,
Mhm,
are we there yet?
mhm, mhm. It's hard to
But
know. I mean, I see that,
yeah,
I'll be honest with you, I see that in my own life because I'm older than Robin.
yeah,
And, when is it time to walk away? When is it time to walk away from Be Inspired? When is it time to walk away from the art gallery? When is it time to walk away from Bear Fever? When is it time? When is it time to walk away? And for me, it's been, well, when it's not fun anymore.
yeah,
And when,
100%.
like with, uh, what, the art gallery, when one or the both of us say, I've had it, if Sue ever says, I've had it, I'm done, well, then it's done because that's not something I'm doing alone. Which is
Yeah,
one of the reasons why I invented Be Inspired in the first place, because I was afraid she was ready to walk away, and I wasn't ready to retire yet. I needed
yeah,
something to do, so I learned. I asked my banker friend Bill Vitiello to teach me how to podcast, and that's how Be Inspired happened. Because I wasn't ready to quit, but I knew I needed to learn to do something on my own. So, but at some point, I guess people will get tired of listening to me and, maybe I'll walk away from that. Although I can't imagine running out of people who inspire me. So we'll see.
yeah.
We'll see.
And that's the
We'll
thing.
see.
I would say,
Yep.
like with Doggy Traders, I'm not trading and haven't done an episode of Doggy Traders since the spring. But as I
Mm-hmm.
start getting back into trading, that guy that I told you about in California,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind
Yep.
of thinking that he might be the one to take over the Doggy Traders.
Yeah. There you
And
go.
I still own it. It's still on my account and whatever. He's just an
Yep.
admin.
Yep.
for
Yep.
you and Susan to come up with younger artists and younger business type managers to take over
Hmm.
Studio B so that it can you can come in and just have coffee.
Hmm.
You're still
Yeah.
a consultant?
So if there are folks out there who are interested, please get in touch with us. So you never know, you know? Okay, what's next?
I think I lost my spot
Uh,
actually. Rapport, the co-hosts. Um, I think we've done that, and with guests, when David was on, when um, everybody from Boyertown Forward and the candidates and so on were on. There was excellent rapport already. Uh,
mhm.
Over scripting and knowing your subject. We
Well, I
don't
don't
use
think,
script at all.
no, we don't do
So,
that.
and we
No.
know what we're talking because we do the amount of prep to go into it, or we
Right.
push it off for a couple of weeks, like we're doing with this right now.
With this particular one, yes. And refer to your purpose or goal. We've already talked about that.
Yeah,
Helicopter view.
that I didn't understand what that was at first either, but now I get it. See where this episode, like we did last week with 6 episodes,
Hmm.
have a big picture view of how one episode is going to go into another, and
Okay.
also all the things that it takes to manage that, like the editing, the graphics,
Yeah.
the dropping into the directories, and so on. That's what they meant about the helicopter view, being able to see over top of everything. And I think
Yeah.
collectively, we both do that really well.
Yeah, I think so, but rely a lot on your time. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
that's
yay, yay,
it's so fun for me.
just
So
yay.
yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good.
And I look at it like everything else that you're doing, as much as you don't research, that kind of is your research because we come in, we talk a lot about life experiences,
Yes,
and so yeah,
there you
that's
go.
still very relevant to us here.
Yep,
Um,
yep, yep, yep. I think it's
here's what we were talking
important
about
because,
earlier.
we have a lot of life experience to draw
Right.
on. We really do, especially, your work. Oh my God, and mine is a smaller world, but that's a lot of experience, a lot of people I've been through, um, a lot of people you've been through, and experiences like, people are curious about that. They like that. So, yeah, I think we do a pretty good job. Anyway, what's next?
Some of the basic equipment, and that's mics and phones.
Hmm.
Um, the mic is going to give you a better quality sound than just the built-in mic on a laptop or on like you've
Hmm.
switched to that
Right.
USB mic for
Yep.
your phone with Be Inspired. Same thing.
Yep.
It's going to add better quality sound, and that's what actually one of the number 8 is poor audio quality. But also the
Oh.
headphones. This is what I was talking about before when we were talking about audio only and video.
Hmm.
Audio only, you were saying about how it allows you to concentrate as opposed
Hmm.
to checking out what they're wearing.
Right.
Headphones allow you to concentrate as opposed to checking out, the dog walking
It's
in
true.
or all the other
Yeah.
outside noise. Uh,
Yeah. It's really made a difference for me.
yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate, and that was a gift that you
yep.
brought me at Thanksgiving, and I appreciate it. So,
Oh,
okay.
CD's behind you.
Yes. So I
I
need to
just saw his
run
head
pretty
pop up.
much. Yeah. I
I
just
just
saw
saw
it
his head
too.
pop up and
I
thought
thought
that
it was just Ginger.
and thought he was behind me.
No.
But Zach's out of bed. What's going on here? Who's that? I realized it was your screen.
Yeah. Okay, so just to finish off, consistency in publishing, we're not so good at that. Well, I guess we are. I mean, you publish
Yeah, I want to get
constantly.
back to. I want to get back to because I think a lot of people were expecting it on this level. I want to get back to the
Okay,
Tuesday and Friday, and that's me.
okay,
That's nothing you
that's
can
good.
do. Um,
Sounds good. And I don't know what they mean about copyright, so
Anything we do or talk about or use is a copyright material. Um,
okay,
so that would only be something like if you talk about poetry, or if
yep,
we credit Craig when we talk about his articles or anybody else's
okay,
articles. Even
Okay.
though they may not actually be copywritten, we still give the due
Due
respect
diligence.
to
Yeah.
yeah, to whoever deserves it.
Okay, Betty. Well, I got to run.
Yep, same
So,
here.
I'm Jane Stahl,
And I'm Yergz.
and this is Both
Both sides
Sides
now.
Now. Take care,
All right,
everybody.
everybody. See you next week.